problem. So,
You're right.
yeah.
Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order, and there's no decisions made in the executive session.
And then I'd like to request that I transfer 40 hours of sick leave time, donated sick leave time to Calvin Center.
I make a motion that we allow Dave to transfer 40 hours for Calvin.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, I got one question for you first. What do I tell this guy out there in the state line with that dirt, with that sand in his ditch? He calls me every week.
Every week, it's his sand,
Well,
his pasture, his field that blew.
so it's his problem.
Tell him we'll be glad to clean it out for him. It'll be so much an hour.
Because
I mean, we're going to get to it, but I don't know when.
yeah,
I mean, we're shorthanded.
yeah, I had told him that we had decided that we would pull some of that sand down to the bottom, but maybe I shouldn't have told him that when you said, but
Well, we
Like I
will,
said, it
but
was- yeah.
I think he wants to get into his pasture corner, but I got some pictures you guys want to see.
yeah, well, no, I've been out there and looked at it, and I don't know that much about it, but I told him, you're shorthanded, it's really not our job, but
Right now, in my opinion, all he has to do is get into his pasture. And I'm serious. The sand's drifted up to it's a 5-bar gate,
yeah,
and it's up to the 4th bar. And it's that way for probably, I'd say, 100 to 200 feet to the
yeah.
west of
it's-
that point.
But it's because his field
This field that blew.
Filled is fill. And filled is fill up.
Fill in.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it meets the pasture right there.
Isn't that from Nebraska side anyway that blew in?
It's on Nebraska side. We didn't know anything about it till after the fact, so.
Okay, well, I'll just keep talking with him on it, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dave.
If he needs to get in there sooner, he's gonna have to hire someone to do it, but that's my opinion. So,
Okay, thank you.
Thank
all
you.
right.
Since he's here early.
Yeah, we might as well, huh?
Okay.
I think we're ready for you.
Good morning.
Brian?
Hi, Brad. How are you? Good to see you back at the table again. Awesome. Let me give you guys quick handouts here. Should be pretty straightforward this morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. So, how have things been here last couple of months? Hanging in there, doing okay?
Yeah, we've got to use both hands to hang on now, but
Is that what it is? Yeah. Well, I thought I would just kind of go over the quarterly report like we do every couple of months. And nothing dramatic, nothing crazy for sure. So what I thought I'd do, let's just kind of dig into it. If you guys have any questions, let me know. On page number 1, that just kind of shows kind of where we are with what we early on projected when we did the renewal last year. So we're about 3.68%, if you guys can see that right at the bottom of the Freedom Choice Plan. We're just about that much over. Some of it could be claims. They're pretty reasonable. We see that number quite a bit, under 5%. If you factor back in the reserves, that's that last column there. We're 42% under. So remember, you keep contributing back into your reserves, and that kind of part of that money obviously goes towards the reserves. So overall, we're doing just great, right on target. Okay. The next page, it just kind of shows where your bank balance is. So we had a couple of claims there. You guys can see in some of those middle columns there. Back in February, we had some monthly medical claims. Can you guys kind of see where I am on that? So we're on this page right here. monthly medical claims and then the RX claims as well. See, some of them in February were pretty high, so it kind of took our reserve balance. That's the column on the far right. You see it kind of dropped down pretty good there, 102 to about 79,000. We're still doing fantastic. The money is, our reserves are still looking good. But if you're ever wondering kind of why some of those numbers dropped down, that's kind of why we had it. We had a pretty good bump there in both February and March, medical claims and in RX claims. Okay. Any questions on that? You guys okay? All right. All right. So the next column here.
We had stuff like COVID.
What's that?
The reason we had that big hike is probably because of the COVID.
Yeah,
Probably.
it's throwing off different things. For example, on this next page here, it's your aggregate stop loss report right here. This is for your guys' dental. You guys self-fund your dental portion. So what we saw is obviously with COVID, and these are all just speculations, everybody has their own personal information, but everybody was trying to get in at the end of the year, right? So we kind of saw a good use of dental benefits kind of the end of last year, which makes sense. There's two numbers I always like to point out on this chart, guys. There's so much information here. In the upper right-hand corner, can you guys see it's upper right-hand where it says $15.99 for a single, $59.71 for family, and then $36.69 employee dependent. Do you guys see those numbers? That's basically what we were running at when we first quoted you guys this back in 2016, okay? And we have been under that for the last 4 years. Every time I come and talk to you, we're kind of under those numbers. We've been at 1371, we've been at different numbers. We're kind of seeing that kind of a tilt just a little bit. If you look at the lower left-hand corner, see where it says now single is 1810. Can you guys see that there?
Yeah.
6758, right? So we bumped up a little bit, but remember, that's compared to what we had started at back in 2016, okay? So I talked to Julie in Julie's office, and she says, even though you're seeing a slight increase there, that is still way cheaper than we can get anywhere out on the open market right now. So she wanted me to assure you that we're doing fantastic at that number. I just like to highlight differences, and that's one that we see. So what does that mean to you guys? If you're interested, we can kind of adjust the numbers. If you wanted the employees to maybe pay a little bit more, we can get those numbers down. But Julie in her office said it's probably not a major concern, and it probably wouldn't be worth going through all that redoing and having the employees pay more and that type of thing. Okay? But those are the two numbers I always like to kind of show you guys. Okay? What we kind of started at, our starting point, and we've been under for years. I mean, we went back and looked at some numbers, and we're doing really good. Okay? So then we get into top benefits, this next page. And so we changed our format just a little bit. If you guys remember, we do top benefits and then top providers, right? But now we're breaking them down into this one's top benefits. This is non-PPO. This is individuals that have kind of gone outside the network, okay, to their own choice, obviously, fair enough. But we kind of broke those out a little bit. So you can see top benefits non-PPO, and then on the next page you have top benefits PPO, like part of the plan. So as obviously our prescription RX is always pretty much at the highest top bar there. And all those numbers will total down $21,784.36 at the bottom. So we have top benefits non-PPO, top benefits PPO, and then we obviously go into the dental as well, right? So non-PPO, PPO as well. And so they're all kind of broken down. It's a little bit more information for you guys this year. Just kind of splitting it out so you guys can see where your employees are utilizing their benefits. We always like, the only reason we'd want to keep tabs on something like that is if we see utilization going outside kind of the local hospital area, why is that happening? And address some of those issues for your information, not for anything we do. So you guys can kind of take a kind of like a snapshot here and see where these benefits are being utilized, both by benefit and by provider, PPO, non-PPO. Okay? All right, so then we get into top providers. You guys can
Brian, I
kind of...
don't know that I've got a PPO dental page on here. I go from medical straight to
Okay, so we
the
got...
non-PPO on the dental.
So we go
Did you have a page for,
non-PPO dental.
maybe we didn't.
That's a good question, Brett. Yeah. At first, I'm assuming that I got my pages mixed up when I put together the packets, but that doesn't look like the case. What I'll do is, I'll go ahead, Scott, is it okay if I emailed you that and get that to you guys?
Absolutely.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I just
That's a good observation. I apologize. Perhaps when I was kind of putting the packets together, it messed out that page. But once again, this is just overall, I'll get you guys that report for sure. I apologize. This just kind of shows where, like I said, where your employees, where they're utilizing the benefits, okay? Is there any questions on that? As far as medical, dental, PPO, non-PPO? Tons of information there. Do you guys like it broken down like this, where it shows non-PPO?
I think it's good.
Okay.
What do you guys-
It adds a lot more to you.
Yeah, I think it's better to.
We always like to say if you're having a hard time sleeping at night, you have some good reading material here. Read insurance, PPO and non-PPO information. And just in talking with Julie's office, remember, we can break these reports down however you guys need them. It just kind of helps in your decision-making process, what direction you guys go and how we interact with various providers and that type of thing. Okay. Should I go ahead and continue, or are we good for now? Okay. You guys, we're basically to the ServU section, so we went through all the sections that are dealing with provider and benefits and how all those break down. When we get to these next couple of pages, this is just kind of showing what ServU is doing. Remember, there are provider for prescription services. Really what I always like to show you guys on this, there's obviously more information here than sometimes you want, but if you guys flip the page here, this is just kind of a summary, but if you guys flip the page and it gets into some pie charts here, that's where I like to really focus, okay? What you're seeing here is we're trying to get everybody to go generic. That's what saves the county money and so forth, right? And anything over the very first pie chart on the far left-hand side, that goes with our brand generic distribution. We always want that to be over 90%. So we're at 92% generic brand distribution. So we're doing good. That's a good place to be. So that's where I kind of like to highlight on that one. So that has stayed pretty static, I recall, for years, to be honest with you. So you guys, or you and or employees, are doing a great job at promoting that, pushing that. That saves the county money and so forth. Okay. So really, if you break it down, the three things that we are concerned about, as far as where we're coming in with our numbers, we're doing great. We're a little bit over, percentage points over. We've seen that pretty static the last couple of years. But when you tie back in your reserves, you guys are doing great. Your brand generic distribution looks really good. We're over 90%. And that's just kind of that's an industry goal. It's not like if we dipped under 90%, there's something wrong with us. But we want to try to be over 90%. And the last 2 pages here is just, we always like to throw in what your benefits are, both for dental and for the medical as well, just so you guys have all that information in one place. So everything pretty static. There's really not a lot of major issues or changes. How were you guys, any feedback as far as employees having issues? Or
I think they're happy with it. I
Okay,
really do.
I haven't heard anything
Okay.
one way or other.
okay.
Still the.
2 cards, yeah. If we get rid of that, we'd be
Well,
gold, wouldn't we?
I ran into something interesting dealing
Yeah.
with a hospital.
Yeah.
And I called and I said, I don't, I don't see that this went through Freedom Claims.
Uh-huh.
And so they went actually on their computer system and they said, oh, it was coded other. It is here. We'll send it through.
See, a lot of times it's not on our end. We're doing the right thing.
I know, and the employees are doing exactly what
The
they're
right they're
supposed
supposed to do.
And they've got all
And
the
it's the
information.
provider.
It's the provider and how they code
Yeah.
it into their system.
That's a good point. Well, like I said, we like to reiterate if there's anything we could do to help facilitate those things. Like if you don't want to, get your hands muddy and so forth, we'll be happy to kind of jump in on those. So
Oh,
just let us know.
usually, fortunately,
There-
with my last few dealings with out of town, it's taken one phone call, and they've had all the information. It just didn't
They
get
didn't get-
processed
yeah.
the way that it should. So,
And that 2-card thing is not it's a challenge for
Sometimes usually it's somewhere new. I mean, once
Yeah.
you're in there,
Yeah.
they know it. But
they know it.
yeah,
Yeah. And you got the email about the whole Cobra thing that
yes.
just sent it. You comfortable with that and everything?
Yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, all they're really looking for was it a voluntary or involuntary separation.
Right.
That's all.
I have not completed it.
No worries, no worries. Since I'm here, if I could address that. Did you guys need an extra one of these? I have an extra one. Are we good? Okay. Is there any questions or issues or topics or everything pretty standard? Okay. All right. Well, I'll sure look forward to seeing you guys in about 3 months. All right. Yeah, good to see you again,
Hey,
Brett.
you too.
Yeah, it was
Have a safe trip
fantastic. All right. It sounds like you guys are busy, so I'll go ahead and scoot on my way out. So
Well, thank you for coming.
have a great weekend.
You too,
okay?
bud.
Thanks, Brian.
Good morning.
Dave Anderson from High Plains.
Oh, okay.
Wasn't sure whether you were coming out or we were doing it over the phone.
Never miss an opportunity to drive out. Especially after a year of not having gone
Yeah.
anywhere.
I think we're ready for it.
All right.
You wanna-
Good morning.
Good morning.
You all should have gotten a packet from us.
I know we were scheduled, I
last
think,
meeting.
a couple
Yeah, I
we
think
did
we
get
had
it last week.
weeks ago. Looked kind of like this.
Yeah.
Had some graphs.
This is it, right?
There you go. Yeah. So I'm Dave Anderson. I'm the Director of Clinical Programs for High Plains Mental Health Center. I've worked there for almost 34 years. I have had the distinct pleasure of coming up here to meet with you all on several occasions. In fact, on my Facebook page this morning, it popped up that I was here 9 years ago because on that particular trip, I was taking pictures of all the county courthouses. There are so many beautiful ones in our stretch of the country, and one of my old college friends commented about this particular one that he had seen on a trip through here. So that was an interesting little bit of history there. So I'm here to do 2 things. You all, as one of the members of High Plains Mental Health Center, we cover the 20 counties in northwest Kansas through a interlocal agreement. Here to make our annual report and our request for funding for next year. So you will see both of those included in the cover letter there. The two pieces of information that were attached, one is our annual report that shows the counties we serve, the number of people we serve, and the kind of growth in terms of the people we have seen over the last 10 years. Then there's a page that looks like this that gives the specific information for Cheyenne County. So a couple things I'll just point out, and please feel free to stop and ask any questions as we go along. One, as you can see in our overall services, we continue to see a pretty steady increase in the amount of services that we have been providing. Even last year during, the pandemic, we saw more people than we'd ever seen before. In Cheyenne County, you can see, though, since 2018, we've had about a 25% drop in the number of people we've seen. And that's directly correlated to when we stopped having somebody come here to the one-day-a-week office. So we had sent a therapist here who was seeing people in the community, and then because of the funding issues, and the hospital had been making up some of that funding, the difference between what we were getting from the county, the $6,000 versus the request, which was about $10,000 more than that. And so our board, of which Carol Rogers was a long-time member, recently resigned. And my understanding is your new hospital administrator is going to be taking her spot. Is that right?
He's the alternate.
Okay.
There was someone else. He was. I don't know what happened there. But
She moved.
yeah, that's true. The one that we had appointed moved on or from the position or something.
Okay. So you're still looking for a primary?
Right.
Okay, very good. So our board, years and years ago, created a fair funding model, which I think is referenced in your letter, and you should have gotten some paperwork that explains that, but essentially it's based on a number of factors: population, valuation, the number of patients served, the amount of salary that comes to your specific county. And currently we have an employee who lives there, Shayla Orton. I think it used to be Shayla Hilt, who we are unfortunately losing to your school district. She's going to go work there. And whether or not you have a one-day-a-week office or a full branch office, and then just as one of the 20 members. And so that's weighted, and that's why the amount we request from counties fluctuates year to year, simply because all of those things will change somewhat. However, on the aggregate, we haven't asked the counties to increase their funding to the mental health center because we know the economic pressures counties are under, and many times states have passed on issues that they used to fund down to the county level. A big percentage, about half of the people we serve overall, have a family income of under $25,000. So we see a lot of people who work but may not have health insurance. We also see, you can see in the statistics that about a third, 33% of the people we see in Cheyenne are under the age of 19. So we see a lot of young people. During the pandemic, previous to the pandemic, we were seeing about 10 to 15% of the people we served by telehealth. And mostly that was they would be coming into one of our branches and seeing one of our psychiatrists or med providers from Colby or Goodland or Norton, Phillipsburg, Osborne office to the Hayes office. During the height of the pandemic, we saw 95% of the people we served by telehealth because we had sent most of our staff home. So we had purchased a great deal of IT equipment so that they could see people from their homes. The great advantage for us, we discovered that there were quite a few people who we might not have previously gotten to serve. We had at our board meeting a couple of folks come and talk. One was a woman who talked about not having to pull her child out of school, not having to take off from work, not having to travel, all of that saved in being able to use an iPad to have her services from her home. We got to serve a farmer who pulled his tractor over in the field, stopped and did his session. And, we all know if we'd have said to him, look, you got to stop, you got to drive to town, you got to come in and see a provider, he probably would not have done that. Because I know the farmers in my family, and they work when they need to work and when they're able to work. And so they often push off health care, particularly needed health care, when they're busy doing what they have to do day to day. So even though the pandemic created a lot of hardships for us and the people we served, it also opened some opportunities for us to serve some people we might not have gotten the opportunity to do otherwise.
And can they do these off smartphones, or do they have to have
Yes.
iPads or what?
You can do it. Right now, we're allowed to do telephone services, which we've not been allowed to do in the past. And I don't know if we'll get to continue to do that. But yeah, we use a platform called Zoom. You may have heard of that. And it's a teleconferencing, but you can do that on a smartphone, a computer, a tablet. And that allows us to see people. If you talk to our therapists, they'll tell you it's been very interesting, the difference between having people come to our office and see them and seeing into their homes and getting a glimpse of what their life is like there. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. But you get a little sense of what's really going on, in their private lives and in their homes that you might not have known when they just came into the office.
I thought it would have been just the opposite.
How so?
Well, I figure some people don't really want to, you have to get it out of them, so
Sure.
ask them the right questions, I guess.
Sure, there's always that, but it's, it's a sense of sometimes you learn about the chaos that's going on in some people's homes. So you understand for kids, or just people's ability to stay focused while lots of stuff's going on. We have a whole process we ask them to go through. Find a private place, find a quiet place, make sure you're able to stay focused with us, because we want that interaction to be useful and important. It's been the same for us doing meetings. There's a whole different thing about coming and meeting with people face to face and being able to see their expressions and get a sense of whether they're kind of really understanding what you're saying or whether you're missing what they're saying. That really telephone isn't very good at all. But like I said, it's allowed us to do some things that we probably couldn't have done, and we don't know how much of that will get to continue once this is over. You may see some ads running in your paper as Bob Fossum is returning to provide services up here in the office. We've now gotten our folks back out on the roads. I believe you'll be doing that in the hospital. The hospital did come up with some grant funding to provide the other $11,000 so that we could reestablish having somebody here. And it's like all things, if it's local and available, more people are going to use it. And we know that, and we want, to get that opportunity for people whenever we can. Any particular questions?
No, I don't.
So we've been budgeting 6360,
I believe so, yes. In the past.
and we were getting the balance before from the hospital, correct?
Yeah, there
I
was,
mean, we didn't drop any as a county. I mean, the commissioners. We've stayed the same.
so I don't know whether that kind of middle area was, whether the hospital was passing that funding through the county, or whether that was the time when they added that funding and then stopped for a while, and now they've started that again.
It's when they lost the grant.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think we'd ever dropped our
The
budget.
county's been consistent.
Yeah, I think you kind of got hurt by that tax lid and the fact that it wasn't on your books at that time. And so Heidi Tice has been working with us around that, and, we're always willing to kind of work with our community partners in any way we can to be able to find ways to keep services local here, and that's kind of our goal.
Well, I think this is a very important service, but I just want to make sure we're doing our share.
So-
And I don't know where we're going to come up with the money with the tax lid.
Yeah, and we
Grant,
understand.
And I thought we were kind of back on track with the hospital working on a grant.
And they
They
did.
did receive.
Yeah, they did send it to us this year. And we had kind of hoped that they would be able to somehow direct it through the county so it would show up on your paperwork. And I don't know how that
It
works
just
for
seems
them.
strange that we went from 6360 in 14 and then went up to 17 for 3 years and then back to 6360.
Yeah,
It's
and,
because they were including that grant money.
They were including the grant money.
yes.
They were including the grant money on that. And that's
But
why
I
they-
thought last year we got that grant money again. We didn't.
I think it was COVID, I believe COVID money.
But it didn't show up on our draft.
The way in which the accounting is being done, it's not showing the two entities working together.
Together.
Yeah, so we got notified by Heidi back the end of October, and her email said the grant funding we have available is to supplement the county commission funding. So that, they're still, or they've gone back to being able to provide that $11,000.
Okay.
But last year's ask was, 16,109. And so that's, I know sometimes that becomes a question because it looks like there's suddenly a big increase in what we're asking for.
Right,
The ask has
right.
always been the same. It's been the level of funding that,
We're using two entities.
yeah. And some places have started using, they've passed, like, I live in Waukene, and we passed a health care tax to help pay for the hospital and other health care entities, and so the mental health center gets a small piece of that as well. A couple other things. We do what are called county liaison visits. Kaylee Connor will come and visit with county attorney, hospitals, schools, try to check in with people to see if they're getting what they need, if they have any issues. We always want to do what we're doing better, and so we want that kind of feedback. We also do mental health first aid trainings. Those are classes designed to teach non-mental health professionals, how to deal with somebody who's in a psychiatric crisis. We do that with law enforcement, schools, community members. Also helps remove the stigma around mental health. And then we do critical incident stress management for first responders. So if you hear of a situation where your local first responders have a situation that goes poorly, we have a special team that can come out and help process that, because we know, particularly in small communities, like the one you live in and the one I live in, where a lot of those people are volunteers, and they're responding on fire crews or ambulance crews to people they know. And when those things don't go well, it's important to be able to help them process that so that they don't just stop doing it, because we really rely on those folks.
Do they have like a class for the EMS people to go to? Do you have those?
We, in terms of the mental health class?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's open to anyone. So usually all we need is an invitation from somebody in the community, a place to do it, and then we'll do some local advertising and then set that up. But it can be literally anybody. Have a class for youth that's special. We do that a lot with schools. And they're starting now one called Teen Mental Health, which is actually for juniors and seniors in high school.
And that's like a first aid type thing.
Yeah, it just helps them recognize, what is depression, what is anxiety, what should you do if your friend says something that concerns you, how you can handle it. One of the first people to go through this class years ago was the Norton Sheriff. And he said, we used to go out and we would be asked to pick these people up who people were worried about, but we never talked to them because we were always worried we'd make it worse. And so we'd pick them up in our police car and take them to the sheriff's department while they were waiting to get screened. And he said, now we know. We know what to talk to them about. We know what to ask them. And we know what not to say. And we can be helpful. And so for them, it's really been another kind of tool in their toolbox for dealing with people. Any questions I can answer for you all?
No, I'm good.
Is the hospital is subsidizing you this year then? Is that what I understand?
Yeah, so they're paying a part of that overall county request through a grant.
Okay, good.
Just curious.
And if there's anything we can do to be helpful in terms of board members, we tried to get Carol to find somebody before she left. We've kind of told people, like, before you get off the board, you should have to replace yourself. And she'd been on there so long, and such a great board member.
I think we had it set up, it just fell apart.
Yeah, well, it took me a year in my own community of knocking on doors, so I know what that's like. Thank you all for your time. It's good to see you again.
Thank you.
You as well.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Holler if we can ever do anything for you.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Okay, do we have anything else? No? Take a motion to adjourn then.
I make a motion that we adjourn. Second.
All in favor? Aye.